Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're diving into a topic that's a mainstay in the UPSC syllabus and a hot-button issue in India today. The minimum support price, or MSP, and those ongoing farmer protests.
Yeah.
This deep dive should really equip you with the knowledge you need for both mains and prelims.
It's fascinating because this isn't just like an economic issue.
Oh, definitely not.
This is really deeply intertwined with India's history and social fabric and even international trade.
Wow.
We'll be looking at it from all these angles, which should give you a well-rounded perspective for your exams.
For sure.
Yeah.
I've been going through a lot of the news and articles that you sent over.
Okay.
And it's clear that the Supreme Court's recent criticism of the government's handling of these protests, it's really added fuel to the fire.
Yes. The court's stance has put even more pressure on the government to address the farmers' demand.
For sure.
For a legally guaranteed MSP.
Right.
But this story runs deep. To really grasp the complexities,
Yeah.
we need to go back to the early 90s.
The liberalization era.
Exactly. India's economic reforms in 1991 were a watershed moment, but they also set in motion a chain of events that led to the challenges farmers face today. Understanding this historical context is crucial for the UPSC.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for those essay questions that demand a broad perspective.
Absolutely. So it's more than just the recent farm laws that are causing these protests.
Absolutely. These protests are a culmination of decades of simmering discontent.
Oh, wow.
Think of it as a pressure cooker situation.
Okay.
The shift towards industrialization post-1991 led to a relative neglect of the agricultural sector.
Right.
Now, with rising input costs, limited MSP implementation and climate change adding to the mix, the pressure has reached a boiling point.
Wow. You mentioned limited MSP implementation.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure.
I remember from my economics prep that MSP mainly focuses on rice and wheat.
Right. The government primarily procures rice and wheat at MSP, leaving a large number of farmers who cultivate other crops without a safety net.
Oh, wow.
This creates regional disparities and exacerbates the feeling of being left behind.
That makes sense. So we have farmers grappling with rising costs, fluctuating market prices, and limited price support for many crops. It's no wonder they're demanding a legal guarantee for MSP.
Exactly. The demand for legal MSP stems from a desire for greater economic security.
Right.
A guaranteed minimum price, they argue, would ensure a stable income and protect them from market volatility.
This is a good point to kind of delve into the for and against arguments for a legally guaranteed MSP.
Okay.
Let's start with the for camp.
Okay.
What are the main arguments in favor of this policy?
Proponents of a legal MSP argue that it would directly address farmer distress.
Okay.
By ensuring a minimum income, encouraging investment in agriculture, and potentially even leading to increased food production.
That sounds promising. But what about the potential drawbacks?
Well, critics argue that implementing a legal MSP for all crops would be a logistical nightmare.
Oh, really?
It would require massive investment in infrastructure, procurement and storage, putting a huge strain on the government's budget.
Wouldn't that lead to higher taxes or cuts in other essential sectors?
Potentially, yes.
There's also the issue of potential market distortion. If the government sets a minimum price, wouldn't that discourage competition and potentially lead to inefficiencies?
That's another key argument against legal MSP.
Okay.
Critics worry that it could create artificial price supports, leading to overproduction of certain crops and discouraging diversification.
It seems like there are valid points on both sides.
Yes.
So how do we find a solution that addresses farmer distress without creating unintended consequences?
That's the million-dollar question, and frankly, there's no easy answer.
From a UPSC perspective, understanding these complexities and being able to articulate both sides of the argument is crucial.
Absolutely. Now, to add another layer of complexity, let's talk about the World Trade Organization. India is a signatory to various WTO agreements, and some of those agreements place limitations on how much we can support our farmers.
Wait, so these agreements, which are often touted as promoting free trade, could actually be hindering our ability to help our own farmers.
In some ways, yes.
That's fascinating. Can you give us a specific example?
Sure. One example is the Agreement on Agriculture.
Okay.
Which caps the amount of subsidies a developing country like India can provide for agricultural products.
Okay.
This means we have to be very strategic in how we support our farmers, keeping international trade rules in mind.
Gotcha.
This nuance is something UPSC examiners love to test in the mains exam.
This adds a whole new dimension to the debate.
It does.
So it's not just about the economics and logistics of MSP.
Right.
It's also about navigating the complex web of international trade agreements.
Precisely. And that's why this issue requires a multi-pronged approach that goes beyond a simple yes or no on legal MSP.
All right, so we've established the historical context, explored the arguments for and against legal MSP.
Yes.
And touched upon the WTO angle. What are some of the alternative solutions being proposed?
Let's dive into those next. But before we do, I think it's worth emphasizing that this issue is constantly evolving. Keeping yourself updated with the latest developments through newspapers, government reports, and expert opinions is crucial for acing the UPSC.
For sure. Okay, so we've laid the groundwork. Now let's explore some of the alternative solutions that are being discussed to address farmer distress. I'm particularly interested in this from a UPSC perspective, as it shows we're thinking beyond just the textbook answers.
Great point. Remember, the UPSC is looking for candidates who demonstrate critical thinking and a nuanced understanding of complex issues. So let's delve into some of these alternatives.
One idea that I've come across is a more targeted approach to MSP. What does that entail?
Instead of trying to implement like a blanket legal MSP for all crops, which would be logistically and financially challenging, a targeted approach would focus on specific crops or regions.
So maybe concentrating on crops that are essential for food security or those grown in regions facing acute distress.
Exactly. This could make MSP implementation more manageable and address specific needs without overburdening the system. It's about prioritizing resources where they are most needed. This type of targeted intervention is often discussed in the context of government schemes, so it's relevant for both prelims and mains.
It sounds like a much more pragmatic approach.
It is.
What about the role of cooperatives? I've read that they can be quite effective in empowering farmers.
Absolutely. Strengthening farmer-producer organizations, or FPOs, is crucial. These cooperatives can help farmers pool their resources, bargain for better prices, and access markets more effectively. We've seen successful examples in sectors like milk production where cooperatives have played a transformative role.
And this ties in nicely with the need for robust infrastructure, right?
Spot on. For cooperatives to thrive, we need efficient storage facilities, transportation networks, and access to technology. This is where government schemes like PMKSY come in, which aim to modernize the agricultural supply chain.
For our listeners preparing for prelims, it's important to note the full form of PMKSY.
Yes.
Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana. Understanding these schemes and their objectives is crucial for those objective-type questions.
You're absolutely right. Moving on, another alternative that's gaining traction is contract farming.
Can you explain how that works?
In contract farming, farmers enter into agreements with companies or cooperatives to produce specific crops at a predetermined price. This provides some income security for farmers and assures buyers of a steady supply.
Sounds as a win-win, but are there any potential downsides?
Of course, contract farming can be beneficial, but it's crucial to ensure fair contracts and protect farmers from exploitation. There needs to be transparency and a level playing field for both parties.
I see. It's all about finding that balance. Now, what about crop insurance? It seems like a no-brainer for mitigating risks in agriculture.
You're right. Crop insurance is vital for protecting farmers from unforeseen events, like natural disasters or pest attacks. The Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, or PMFBY, is a significant step in this direction, but there's still scope for improvement in terms of coverage and claim settlements.
Something to keep in mind for prelims, folks.
Yay.
Remember the name of the scheme and its key features.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. And finally, we can't forget about diversification. Encouraging farmers to explore alternative crops and income-generating activities is crucial for building resilience.
For sure.
So instead of putting all their eggs in one basket, they could explore horticulture, animal husbandry, or even agrotourism.
Exactly. Diversification helps reduce risks and opens up new income streams, making farmers less vulnerable to market fluctuations or crop failures.
So what we're seeing here is a shift from a singular focus on MSP to a more holistic approach.
Yes.
That encompasses various solutions, tailored to specific needs and challenges.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that there's no one-size-fits-all solution to farmer distress.
Right.
And this recognition is reflected in the government's policies and schemes.
Yeah.
For your UPSC preparation, I'd recommend analyzing these schemes critically. Look at their strengths, weaknesses, and potential areas for improvement.
Right.
This will equip you with a well-rounded understanding
For sure.
of the issues at hand.
That's a great tip. It's not just about memorizing facts and figures. It's about understanding the rationale behind these policies.
Exactly.
And their real-world impact. It's this kind of analysis that will make you stand out.
Yes.
In the UPSC exam.
You've got it. Now, I'd like to highlight another crucial aspect that often comes up in UPSC discussions.
Okay.
The need for agricultural research and development.
Right. We need to invest in developing drought-resistant seeds, better irrigation techniques, and sustainable farming practices. This is where institutions like the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, or ICAR, play a vital role.
Exactly. Technological advancements in agriculture are crucial for boosting productivity, reducing costs, and adapting to climate change.
So to sum up, we've got a multifaceted approach here.
Yeah.
Targeted interventions, strengthening cooperatives, promoting contract farming, improving crop insurance, encouraging diversification,
Yes.
and investing in research and development.
That's right.
Each of these solutions has its own set of complexities and considerations, which is precisely what makes this topic so fascinating and relevant for the UPSC.
Couldn't have put it better myself. And remember, this is an ongoing debate.
Right.
So keep yourself updated with the latest developments.
Wow, it's been a really insightful discussion. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
From the historical roots of those farmer protests to the complexities of MSP and all of those potential solutions being explored.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've touched upon some key areas that are highly relevant
for
the UPSC exam. Remember, it's not just about memorizing facts. It's about understanding the interconnections, analyzing the pros and cons, and forming your own informed opinions.
Exactly. The UPSC is looking for candidates who can think critically and apply their knowledge to those real-world situations.
For sure.
This entire episode has been like a masterclass in how to approach those complex policy issues.
It has.
Which is a skill that will serve you well in the exam and beyond.
Absolutely. And as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought.
Okay.
Think about the role of technology in agriculture. How can we leverage innovations in areas like precision farming, data analytics, and even blockchain to empower farmers and create a more sustainable agricultural system? This is a question worth pondering, especially as we move towards a more digitally driven world.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic point to end on. It's a reminder that this conversation is far from over. We need to keep exploring new ideas, challenging assumptions, and pushing for solutions that benefit both farmers and consumers.
Well said.
Huge thank you to our expert for sharing their insights, and to all of you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it informative and helpful for your UPSC preparation.
It's been a pleasure.
Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and share this episode with your fellow UPSC aspirants.
Yes.
We'll be back with another deep dive soon, so stay tuned.